In 1979, software engineer Bruce Artwick released a program for Apple computers called FS1 to rave reviews. This was the very first home product in the genre of flight simulation. Contrasted to the much more common flight combat sims, flight sims appeal to people who are looking to simulate the experience of how to fly an aircraft, without all those pesky lasers and bombs. But this is a genre that has existed almost entirely on personal computers. Thanks to the more cerebral setting, this can function as much as a piece of software, alongside CD-ROM encyclopedias and arts and crafts programs, as it is a video game. Conversely, the history of flight sims released on consoles was shockingly scant. As of September 9th, 1999, there had been a grand total of 4 games that qualified as flight-only simulators in the history of console gaming. Space Shuttle dropped for the Atari 2600 in 1983, followed by a 5200 port the following year. 7 years later, in 1991, Space Shuttle Project followed, late in the NES's life cycle. The other 2 were Pilot Wings, a 1991 launch title for the Super Nintendo, and its sequel, Pilot Wings 64, a 1996 launch title for the Nintendo 64. That's not just the good ones. That's all of them. There is a maddening masterpiece of a game called RC Stunt Copter that came out for PlayStation about a month after September 9th, but on 9/9/99, that's all we have as a lead-in for Aerowings. Now, I admittedly haven't played those space shuttle games, but the Pilot Wings series was a favorite of mine as a child, mostly because it took the possibly foreboding flight sim genre and made it colorful, catchy, and fun, with a series of different types of flying craft. Pilot Wings 64 especially had a jazzy island serenity to it that made it a joy to sift through, even if the tasks could be quite difficult. On the other hand, there's Aerowings. I have absolutely no idea what the actual main mode of Aerowings might specifically be, because the little training tasks are so stuffed to the gills with instructions, and yet are so ruthlessly unhelpful when it comes to actual guidance, that I would venture to guess most people aren't even able to get through them to access whatever the primary mode might be. They dump you into these trainings by unfurling a series of numbers for different metrics that they expect you to adhere to the digit. Many times, you will have no indication you've done anything wrong until the game's amusingly overzealous drill instructor starts screaming at you.
Hey, are you out of your mind?
Even on the rare times that you actually succeed in the tasks, the response for scoring in the 80s or even the 90s out of 100 points is pretty good. A call that has become something of a meme in our household.
Plus.
Pretty good.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
That's what an 87 gets you. Tough love with this teacher.
I have no idea if the game has a compliment above pretty good. The problem with this game is that there is so much homework, and yet you receive so little assistance or support that it's not only unclear how to do these tasks, but if you're doing them for anything, that there will be any sort of edifying, emotional, or action set piece after this. The game does have a series of challenges that are just flying through a lot of rings in different environments, but it's not clear if those are side missions or the payoff you're supposed to be performing in the trainings for. There's technically also a multiplayer mode for up to 4 players, but that mode is entirely based around performing complicated formations. And considering I've played the formation training dozens of times, and literally never once got even one thing correct on them, with absolutely zero indication of what I'm doing wrong or how to correct it. I have to say that there's just no way to find any joy in multiplayer mode either. The idea that Aerowings expects not only you, but up to 3 of your friends to have gone through its stern, rigorous training slog to be able to do anything in tandem is almost offensive. I admit that I've never spent much time in the flight simulator genre, but I can see the appeal. The idea of being able to learn and do all of the things required of you to operate an actual aircraft is a fun concept, and those sorts of PC works that feel like educational reference guides with neat visuals seem cool. Aerowings also looks fairly nice, but that lack of clarity about literally any part of this experience is really what limits the effectiveness of the game generally. All the period reviews I read said that they enjoyed it, but worried that casual gamers were not going to get very far and would just bail because of its high learning curve and nebulous structure. And guess what? They're right. Aerowings sucks because it demands tasks of you, barely shows you how to do them, and then yells at you for failing, all in service of absolutely nothing. On console, there just isn't a history or a market for a game like this. So to make it palatable for the arena you're releasing it into, you have to make the game feel welcoming and fun. Something like Pilot Wings that will guide you and charm you. Or, accepting that, you need it to be quirky and addicting. The aforementioned RC Stunt Copter, for example, is harder and more ruthless than Cuphead and Super Meat Boy put together, and I have never had a game that has made me angrier, but also motivated me to keep playing, because RC Stunt Copter has very clear goals, and how to attain them. It's more like a claw game, something that's preposterously difficult, but addicting, because the controls are so responsive in a way where you feel like you got it if you could just get it. And that scratches a nice itch. Aerowings never manages to make a case for itself. You fail, and it yells at you, and you try it again, and you fail, and it yells at you. And never once do you feel like you've got it. It just says, turn the plane, and then you try, and it beeps at you, so you stop, and then it tells you you failed, and you have to try again. But it never makes a compelling case as to why you should try again, especially when there were 18 other games to play on launch day. Case in point, after failing yet another frustrating training, I decided to just watch a long play to at least see what I couldn't get to. And I discovered that on YouTube, Aerowings has no long plays. I couldn't find a single video that would show me even what the next training might be, much less the moon level, the game's one apparent concession to anything approaching whimsy. Apparently, nobody wanted to spend any comprehensive amount of time with Aerowings. By the way, the game's soundtrack is that same weird, stale, canned techno that every other Dreamcast launch title has, but this one features a recurring voice sample of a woman saying, "They've got you groovin'!" And I just had to add that I'm not sure I have ever played a game that qualifies as less groovin' than Aerowings. Next time, who knew that the only thing holding football back was that it wasn't violent enough?